Is now the time to break free from your old story? Welcome. Today I will introduce to you the hidden emotional forces that shape your identity, happiness, and future. These are the key points that I'd like to cover in the time we're together. We are storytelling animals, constantly telling a story of our existence. And as you know, the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves can be either helpful or unhelpful. Our self-stories significantly determine our well-being, happiness, and future. And finally, it is possible to change our self-stories by using metacognitive tools or what is called thought processes and patterns for recalibrating our attention. Pause for a moment and listen to your mind. Not to your breath, not to the sounds around you, but to the quiet, relentless commentary running in the background. At times do you say, "Why does this always happen to me?" or some other form of self-doubt? They probably think I'm incapable and stupid, or another inferiority complex comment. I should have been so much farther along by now. More doubt. I give up, there's no point in trying. I'm a damaged person, and nobody will ever care about me. We like to think of ourselves as rational beings who occasionally tell stories. In truth, we are storytelling animals who occasionally reason. You see, we constantly tell ourselves stories of our existence, selecting facts, interpreting, explaining, judging, and predicting. We slant our stories about the world, others, what we are doing, what things mean, and what will happen next. And while these stories feel like neutral descriptions of reality, they're anything but. Stories help us make sense of our own existence. They force order on chaos. In our inner stories, we select particular settings, create pivotal links between events, and give roles. Some people become stars or helpers, others opponents or villains. We highlight certain moments and edit out others. This narrative or plot impulse is not a defect. It is a fundamental human ability. You see, without stories, our lives would feel confused and meaningless. But as you know, not all stories are helpful. Some can trap us in harmful patterns or models. The stories that matter most. The most influential or significant story you will ever tell is the one you have about yourself, your self-story. It determines not just your present well-being, but also your future. Each of us carries a complex inner narrative explaining who we are, how we became this way, and what is possible for us in the future. Based on a carefully curated selection of memories and interpretations, our self-story creates coherence and continuity. It furnishes our existence with meaning. Narrative psychologists such as Jonathan Adler, Dan McAdams, Kate McLean, and B.A. Rogers have shown that our well-being depends on to a significant extent on how we storify our lives. People whose self-stories follow redemption narratives, stories of growth, learning, and transformation, or see their lives as a form of hero's journey, tend to report greater life satisfaction and psychological resilience. By contrast, unhelpful self-stories often follow patterns of decline, stagnation, or futility. We may tell ourselves that we are defective, lacking essential resources, or fundamentally different from others in ways that would doom us to failure. These narratives don't just feel unpleasant, they act like ongoing psychological suggestions. And as you know, suggestions shape your experience. What does it mean to be stuck in your story? When you're stuck in your story, you replay old experiences as if they were your only identity. The stories that create invisible barriers to your progress. These stories lock people in pain, regret, or fear. For example, someone who went through a painful divorce, or a person who lost a job or didn't get a job promotion. Being stuck in your story often sounds like, "That's just the way I am," or "Things never work out for me," or "This has always been the way and I can't change." But here's the truth. Your story explains where you've been. It doesn't dictate where you're going. When stories turn toxic. Unhelpful stories function like negative trances. They seep into our emotional lives, take over our imagination, shape our actions, and distort our relationships. Over time, they become a major source of psychological suffering. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are helpless, unlucky, or destined to fail, your nervous system listens. Your motivation falters. Your sense of capacity to fulfill your potential shrinks. You stop attempting to shape your life, not because you can't, but because your story tells you there is no point. Why bad stories are so hard to dislodge. One reason self-stories are so powerful is that they are self-perpetuating or long-lasting. We are highly susceptible to cognitive biases, especially confirmation bias. We constantly filter our perceptions, memories, and interpretations to fit our existing narratives. If your core story is, "I always fail," your attention will automatically zoom in on setbacks and dismiss evidence of competence or success. If your story is, "I am fundamentally flawed and unlovable," moments of rejection will feel like proof, while moments of acceptance will be quietly discounted. Here's the crucial point, and the most hopeful one. While our stories shape us, our stories are also ours to shape. Please keep that in mind. That is very, very important. Over time, unhelpful stories harden into self-authentic beliefs, or beliefs that serve oneself to be real, true, or genuine. The good news, stories can change. It is possible to change our relationship to our inner narratives. We can learn to step back from them, to see them as constructions rather than as immutable truths. We can broaden access to our memories, recalibrate our attention, and loosen the grip of self-blaming or world-blaming interpretations. We are not merely characters in our stories. We are also the narrators, and with detailed attention and practice, we can become wiser and more discerning editors of our life stories. What happens if you do nothing? This is truly your decision and your future, isn't it? To your future success. You can contact me at any of these options. I'd be willing to talk to you about your concerns, and then you can decide on a plan to move forward.